Welcome to your Urban Connection. Remember, this is the channel that is often imitated but is never duplicated. You see, on this channel, we talk about things that others don't want to talk about or will not talk about. Remember, I am not a newscaster. I am a podcast. Now, today I want to talk to you about a new tactic that is being used by white nationalists and white racists to take away private funding grants from Black recipients. I want to tell you about two instances that happened just within recent days. And these are not companies that are government funded, these are private companies. So these are not taxpayers' dollars that they're cutting off. These are private companies putting up their own money to provide grants for small Black businesses. Now, the first one I want to tell you about is the company that is owned by two Black females in Atlanta, Georgia, who happen to own a venture capital company. Now, these ladies in 2019 started to provide grants to contest recipients, and the grants were designed for and targeted to Black females, and not even Black males, but Black female small business owners and females who wanted to start a business. Now, these contests were held each year, and each year the winners of the contest were rewarded with $20,000 grants. Now, these grants were given each year, and this company, in the 4 years now that this program has been in existence, has given grants to about 40 different companies, all Black female-run companies. And the company is backed by JP Morgan Chase, MasterCard, and there was one other company that was involved also. And this company was going on just fine. And all of a sudden, a gentleman by the name of Ed Bloom. Now, that's a name you might or might not have heard of, but this is a white nationalist that was behind the Supreme Court's affirmative action decision, ending affirmative action at certain race conscious colleges and universities. Now, Mr. Bloom had, I don't know if it was a friend of his or whatever, but he wanted to get one of these grants. And when told that he could not apply, I guess he told Mr. Bloom, and Mr. Bloom found out about this and decided, oh, hell no, we can't have this. I mean, this, he says, according to him, this is plain, awfully a violation of a 1886 Civil Rights Act, which prohibits the awarding of contracts based on race. Now, so Mr. Bloom takes it upon himself to file a lawsuit and stop this practice. Now, to me, it's far-fetched from Mr. Bloom or the courts to try to tell a private company privately owned company, not a branch of the government, so there's no tax dollars involved here. But for them to tell a privately owned company who they can give their money to is, to me, way the hell out of line. And I'm sure, and I haven't read the act, but I'm sure that that 1886 act, this guy says it's a violation of a section of the Civil Rights Act of 1886, which prohibits racial discrimination in contracts. All right, I'm pretty sure that in 1886, that certainly was not aimed at Black recipients. Okay, and certainly I don't think it was aimed at private companies. So I think they're going to have a heck of a time actually winning any judgments on this case. But we'll see it. I'll keep you informed on this. Now, in another case that is similar to this, Progressive Insurance, which many of you have seen their TV commercials, Progressive Insurance in 2022 decided to have a program that they initially utilized to provide small business loans or grants, not loans, small business grants of up to $25,000. But these grants were only available to members of the Hispanic community. Hispanic-owned businesses were the only ones that could apply. Now, in that particular case, they made it certain that whites, Asians, Blacks, and other ethnic minorities could not, or not necessarily minorities, but other nationalities could not apply for these loans, for these grants. And needless to say, some white gentleman decided he would apply. Now, I think he knew in the beginning that he was not going to be allowed to apply, and he could not be the recipient of one of these $25,000 grants because the program laid out clearly, spelled it out, who these grants were intended for. But guess what? Nobody filed a lawsuit on that. Nobody. So now that was 2022. In 2023, they changed who could be a recipient of these grants. And they changed it to small Black-owned businesses. Small Black-owned businesses, male and female. Yeah. So then a gentleman applies for this one. He was not Black. He was told that he was not allowed to be a recipient for this grant program. Now then in steps, and I don't know how he finds out about this, but former senior advisor to ex-President Donald Trump by the name of Stephen Miller. And I'm sure a lot of you, or most of you, have heard of Stephen Miller, the self-avowed white nationalist. And he hears about this program by Progressive Insurance to provide $25,000 grants to small Black-owned businesses. And he just, oh, hell no, we cannot have that. That is reverse discrimination, he says. And what does he do? He files a lawsuit against Progressive Insurance. Now, Progressive Insurance awarded the $25,000 grants to the winners of the 2023 campaign last Tuesday. Now, at their press conference, they didn't make any mention as to whether or not there would be a 2024 program. So we don't know what's going on, and probably it will all depend on what the outcome of the lawsuit is. But there again, this is a private-owned company. They're using their own money. There's no tax dollars involved in this. There's no public funds involved in this. This is a private company, a privately owned insurance company. Now, they also issued this statement. They said, Progressive said that they were stepping in to provide funding to Black entrepreneurs to help navigate their small business journey. Now, folks, look, if it were not for privately owned companies coming and stepping in like these two companies I've just talked about are doing, Black folks are having a, a hell of a time being successful at getting these kind of loans. We're not even talking about grants, but even these kinds of loans from our uh, systemically racial financial institutions. And I'm talking about our major banks. I'm talking about the credit unions. We certainly don't get it from venture capitalists, and we don't get any money from other financial enterprises or institutions. That is the number one source of lack of Black business entrepreneurs funding. Funding. Now, let's talk about something. $25,000 is not a lot of money. But if you're a struggling small business, I don't care what nationality you are, what race you are, $25,000 will go a long way toward getting you the necessary working capital that you would need to fund and grow your business. Even sometimes it might even assist you in hiring additional personnel that could grow your business. So that $25,000 grant or $20,000 grant can come in very handy because let me tell you, I've even heard of micro loans of $10,000 or micro grants of $10,000 have been very beneficial to some small Black businesses. So 25,000, well, it's not 100,000, it's not 500,000, it's not a million, but it's nothing to sneeze at if you are a small, struggling Black-owned business. Or if you're somebody that has a great idea but doesn't have the startup funds, $25,000 can be of some help to you and possibly could take you to the next step and the next level in your business. Certainly, you got to start off small with $25,000, but that could be a stepping stone, which is missing and lacking to a lot of people that have good ideas. Okay. So basically, what we have here is we have the white nationalist people that want to keep their foot on the necks of Black and brown people. Okay. Now, this has been going on for a very long time. And I want to tell you another story. Farmers in America, and I'm going to say white farmers, for the last 10 years, the federal government, and this is talking about our tax dollars, mine and yours, they have been supplying to farmers an average of $16 billion with a B each and every year. And out of that 16 billion, 1% or less finds its way into the hands of Black farmers across the country. So if we're talking about 16 billion, you get 1% of that is going to Black farmers. You can see why we've had the demise of Black farmers across this country for the last 20, 30, 40 years. They've lost millions of acres of land because the debt that they had to incur, and they didn't have the revenue the funding to keep up with the debt. And so oftentimes their property was foreclosed. Sometimes it was stolen by the banks and regulators and whatever. So I want you to get this. In the Trump administration, the last year of the Trump administration, the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, pumped 20, 26 billion dollars into the pockets of farmers across the United States. $26 billion. Do you want to know how much went into the pockets of black farmers? 1%. $20.8 million out of $26 billion that went into the pockets of white farmers. Now, the white farmers never complained about the fact that their black farmer friends were being discriminated against. They never said anything about, hey, let's take some of this money and allocate it to black farmers. No, they didn't do that. But then when the Biden administration comes along and allocates $10 billion in COVID funds, COVID relief funds to farmers with a stipulation that $5 billion of that would go to black farmers to offset some of the discrimination they've been victims of all these years. But guess what? The white farmers said, oh, hell no. We can't have that. That's reverse discrimination. Well, if it's good for the goose, it should be good for the gander. You know, we're talking about leveling the playing field. And even at that, you don't level the playing field. But you know what? You see, the whites, the white nationalists, the white racists, they don't want a level playing field. As a matter of fact, if you're black, they don't even want you on the field. So what did they do? They sued the Biden administration and the USDA and said, hell no, we can't have that. We cannot have black farmers getting $5 million of this $5 billion of this $10 billion pot. But they didn't have anything to say when white farmers were getting $26 billion and the black farmers were getting $20 million. $20 million out of $26 billion. And they still want to say, hell no, we can't have this. You see, folks, they want to keep you at the bottom of the totem pole. Now, these subsidies that the farmers get every year, let's call it for what it is. It's corporate welfare. That's what it is. Oftentimes, these white farmers are being paid not to grow crops or not to use their crops. But they don't want to see the black farmers who are struggling, who've lost land. The black farmers at one point in time, and it wasn't that long ago, ladies and gentlemen, represented 14% of the farming community throughout the United States. Today, it's less than 2%. But you know what? The white farmers, the white racists, and the white nationalists would be just as happy if it was 0%. And let me just say something to you. In view of what the Supreme Court did by striking down affirmative action, by saying to colleges that you cannot use race in your determination as to who gets accepted and who doesn't. Now, these white nationalists are going to take it to the next step and try to eliminate any funding that is going to benefit Black people. They're going to do it through the courts if they can get away with it. But again, I don't see how in the heck you can persuade a privately owned company how to spend their money, how to make grants, who to and who not to make grants available. After all, these are privately owned businesses. They're using their privately generated profits. They're not asking the taxpayers for one dime nor $1, and they're not asking for your approval. But this is what happens when you have a systemic and systematically run racist, discriminatory country, such as what we have here in the United States. Now, you will have certain lackeys and bootlickers like Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, and the two black lackeys we referred to in our program last week that were down there in Georgia, who are now charged with violating the RICO Act and racketeering just to be appeasing Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani. You will have those people tell you that America is not a racist country. You will have those people tell you that there's no such thing as systemic racism in America. Don't you believe one iota. Don't believe one word of that. Because you and I live it and see it every single day that we're alive in this country. So wake up. Wake up. Smell the coffee. Find out who has your back and who does not have your back. Because like I said, it's going to get worse. Because they're going to try to do everything they can. They want to control you. They want to keep their foot on your neck. And they don't want you to complain. But don't be a chump. Don't be a fool. And last of all, please don't be a lackey or a bootlicker. Stand up for your rights. Stand up for what is right. Starting today. Thanks for watching, and that's my show for today.